got an awesome podcast all about ice baths, breathing, yoga, cold exposure, Wim Hof, stress, sauna, changing the mindset, the do's and don'ts, what the connection circles can bring, what functional breathing looks like, life-saving, mouth taping, all things, lots of resources, lots of cool stuff to be able to smash out and really absorb what it means to kind of amplify our performance and overall well-being and health. So that all tied in with our connection and self-worth. Woo-wee! Let's do this. I hope you enjoyed today and welcome back. To reason with someone is to motivate them to do or accept topics, ideas, and issues through discussion and having conversations. This podcast is about the relationship with ourselves and the relationship with others, finding our stability in our self-worth, and how do we actually be in healthy relationships. We find this out through connection, compassion, and communication. Reach out, connect with me, like, subscribe, comment. I want to unpack whatever it is that we can to really get to the nitty and gritty of finding out how do we get better in ourselves and how do we get better in our relationships. Quickly, everybody, if anyone you're listening to this is in Sydney, I'm going to start up some breathing circles and some ice baths. We can all come down and connect. Please email me, text me, comment on this, get in touch with me, and just register your interest. I'm also running some neurofeedback, a neuro-optimal neurofeedback, a way of hacking the brain. I'm going to start putting that up there and in the space a little bit more. But all these things together are going to start really amplifying our performance and really reducing the symptoms that are getting in our way. So please reach out and give this a 5 stars and share it with your friends, and we will be on and upwards. Let me introduce our guest for today. Welcome back to the podcast. We have today an awesome guest, all-rounder, does so many different things. We have Dino Gladstone. He's the former national gold medalist in swimming and a surf lifesaving for Bondi Rescue. He is a qualified and practising yoga teacher, personal trainer, and holistic health coach. He qualified as a Wim Hof method instructor in 2018. He has 22 years experience coaching both kids and adults, ensuring a unique and individual approach to improving the health and performance of all his students and clients. For the past 6 years, Dean has been facilitating Power of the Breath workshops and courses. Thousands of students have gained full understanding of the health benefits associated with breath work and are healing themselves from a range of challenges, including anxiety, respiratory conditions, sleep disorders, snoring, and fatigue. He focused primarily on the study of many breathing techniques, including oxygen advantage, XPT, traditional pranayama, Tummo, holotropic, and the power of CO2 tolerance for performance. Dean believes firmly that by improving diet, hydration, mindset, and goal setting, mobility and movement, and of course breath, many challenges can be overcome. I am here with Dean Gladstone. I am super stoked to have you, man. I'm so keen to talk today.
Jackson, mate, always excited. I love, I do quite a few podcasts, and it's it's a great opportunity just to sit and chat with people.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, for me anyway, that I forget that we're on a podcast, or we're recording.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, this is the cool thing that I guess I like about you. I don't know if you remember, I kind of crossed paths with you a few times. I think we both were talking at just like a youth day out in Cronulla, maybe, with a couple of boys out there that were running a day, and you did a breath work and I did a talk about addiction. So I thought it was in the background, listening to what you were doing, and then followed you ever since. And I think we kind of know a few people that know each other, and so it's definitely something I've been really keen to get you in and talk about all the things that you do. So
it's so fascinating, and everything's so connected, right? And there's some connections coming up between cold therapy and people battling addiction. And that's really exciting, because my partner, who struggled with alcohol and is now alcohol free, and started ice bathing consistently around the time she cold turkey gave up alcohol, and is feeling so much better for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. It's insane what it can do. Just such little tiny shifts that we already naturally produce in the body, and we can just hack the brain in such nice little ways that have such amazing impact outside of medication that can be right in front of us. And obviously, the breath. So, without further ado, let's just jump straight into
Yeah.
it. Who the hell are you, and what do you do?
So that's a big question. It's a tough one. At the moment, I'm helping people to understand stress, and once they understand it, they can influence it. And once they can influence it, they can get healthier and perform better.
Yeah, it's a nice
I'm a
simplified
yoga
way, right?
teacher. I'm a personal trainer. I've been called a performance coach. I was working with a gentleman last night who's getting 13 minutes of deep sleep a night. Um, so to
Yeah.
him, I'm a sleep coach. But
Mhm.
yeah, as you know, I'm helping people to understand stress. Occasionally, I still do a shift, saving lives.
Yep.
But I see my role in that as helping lifeguards to understand stress and
Hmm.
other first responders
Mm.
and you know, rescuing maybe 5,000 to 6,000 people over the years and being involved in bringing maybe 30 people back to life. You
Mm.
understand that stress on a pretty yeah, pretty decent level.
Mm.
And then yeah, sort of learning science behind what you already understand is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the life that you've led so far is so deep in that thing, and I mean, I'm glad. I'm sure lots of people that you've met are really glad that you've stepped into it even further to keep saving lives in maybe a different way to the surf life saving and stuff like that, but in a really kind of profound long term way through the breath.
Oh yeah, mental health is brutal, right? It is. Yeah, I don't want to take the conversation into a deep dark area, but if you know the stats on suicide in Australia, it's
Yeah,
fucking heartbreaking.
exactly
And
right.
yeah, and we deal with that firsthand as lifeguards.
Mm, true.
It's tragic.
Really tragic, and yeah, leading cause of death for a big age group, which is crazy. Not many people kind of know that. It's a hard hitting fact for a lot of people to hear.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, tell me the. I mean, you called power of the breath. What's the sort of story behind it all? Where does such a powerful statement? I love it. The power of
Yeah.
breath.
Well, I thought I had a career break from the lifeguards, and I thought I wanted to be a yoga teacher. I did my yoga teacher training. I had a background in training people and personal training, and I've done a whole array of sort of health and fitness based stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
And I sort of thought yoga teaching was my path. I was really passionate about breathing and moving. I was an asthmatic as a kid, and yoga was just that rhythmic nasal breathing of yoga. It was just beautiful for my mind and body.
mm-hmm.
And I started doing Wim Hof before the yoga, and I was going on this path, and yeah, ended up doing my training with Wim Hof. I sort of ended up having a career break from lifeguarding and wanted to do something that scared the shit out of myself.
Love
And
that.
climbing a mountain with Wim Hof was what I ended up finding because
Mm,
I had this sort of fear of the cold.
mm,
Um, he started teaching the Wim Hof method, and we were calling them Wim Hof workshops. And the Wim Hof people, I love Wim. I'm very much looking forward to seeing him next week. But the Wim Hof business is, um, I guess they're particular in the way they want you to run workshops and teach workshops. And for me, I had a host of other qualifications. I was a health coach, yoga teacher, personal trainer. I'd
yeah.
already taught and been coaching people for a significant amount of years. I was already running workshops, working with groups, and yeah, I just didn't want to be confined to any structure. And Wim himself is actually very, very unstructured.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, there was that they were sort of saying, yeah, you maybe shouldn't call your courses Wim Hof courses unless you do this, this, and this. And it's like, okay, I won't.
Mm,
And
mm,
my beautiful partner, Katie, she just sort of started tagging along to events, and then eventually she started playing a fairly major role in some of those events. Although
yeah.
she's corporate, she is a long time yoga teacher. and she brought in that beautiful connection that we have.
Mm.
So yeah, it sort of became the power of the breath, even though, you know, ice baths are a pretty significant role in what we do sometimes, teaching people about stress. But what we love about ice baths is it brings people back to the breath.
Yeah, got to, right?
Got it. So yeah, which is about stress, which is what I sort of, that's my sort of mission statement, to help people
Yeah.
understand stress and improve health and performance.
And I love that. And obviously, this podcast has definitely gone into a lot of different realms around, I guess the holistic health and like all the different domains and factors. And I think exactly what you're saying, like my sort of therapy doesn't have the one size fits all method. There's so many different, I guess little pathways that we can do that kind of help assist with.
Well, one size doesn't fit all.
Yeah, exactly right. It's
So
the impossibility of that.
approach is not going to work.
Yeah.
Certainly not for everyone.
Yeah, and it's just too hard to kind of, go by. I mean, definitely in therapeutic senses, like there's a lot of evidence-based sort of things where it's like you should be able to do these things based on these symptoms. But it's like, no, every single person is different. So yeah, we definitely kind of go through all the realms of this. And yeah, it seems like, I mean, it's been around forever, cold water, right? But I guess
it's nothing new. Breathwork, cold therapy. I'm not inventing the wheel. I'm just sharing tips and tricks and stuff that I've learned. I've had quite a journey. I've had toes ripped off and teeth knocked out and post-traumatic stress and people back to life and seen people struck by lightning and like the stories.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Stories, you can tell. Like I wish I jotted down more things, especially in that time as a lifeguard. Fortunately enough, there's sort of 17 seasons of Bondi Rescue to capture some of the cool shit that we did.
Sure, for sure.
And even still, we filmed about 6 weeks ago. A couple of guys resuscitated a 8-week-old baby.
Wow.
And they struggled post resuscitation.
Of course they would.
I was able to help them personally. Unfortunately, council won't get behind me to train the staff yet.
Yeah, that's always that's it.
But so I was able to do some breath work. We filmed it for the show. It was amazing content, and I'm able to sort of put free content out there and help people. And as a lifeguard, that's what I used to really enjoy. And actually, a lot of the guys really get a kick out of helping people.
Yeah. So I guess the concepts around like a lot of people, especially around ice baths, and is this idea around like it's good for recovery. And even what you've said, I haven't really even mentioned that word. And I guess I want to kind of get
That's the least thing where I talk about recovery.
Exactly.
There's actually some negative benefits. There was a doctor that did a report on ice baths the other week, Dr. Norman Swan. And I was pretty pissed off actually when I heard it, because he talked about recovery, like the one thing that it actually, people rarely do it for recovery. And then he called Wim Hof an entrepreneur. Mind blowing. Like Wim Hof has changed the world. If you jump on the Wim Hof Facebook page, people credit Wim with curing cancer and a whole range of things that are absolutely saved lives and rewritten textbooks. And he mentioned none of that stuff and compared being in an ice bath to banging his head against the wall. Recovery is certainly not the tool that we're using ice baths for.
Yeah. So talk me through that part, because there's definitely a lot of people out there still thinking like, oh yeah, this is so good for my recovery. This is so good for my gym workout and my health routine. But yeah, are you able to walk us all through the kind of the stress benefit of it or like the element of how that kind of intertwines and why, that realm of it, why that's the real regulation, the key, and how that's sort of shaping all of this change. And like you said, the Wim Hof power that's kind of creating and ripple affecting through people's lives.
So, when I was first starting out in this stuff, I never used to really worry about the science. In 2010, I started delving headfirst into health coaching. And I started drinking raw milk, loved it. And people would ask me why. And it's like, well, I drink it and I feel really good. I know it's good for me, but they're like, why? Like, and then, you know, my partner at the time, she would explain what they do to milk and all this stuff. And yeah, I just do stuff because it feels good. I intuitively know.
Yeah.
Now I am sort of caught up with a lot of the science,
Mm-hmm.
but particularly with this cold therapy, more science is coming out by the month. Huberman published or did a tweet or an Insta post on the weekend, I think, about some of the benefits of cold therapy.
Yeah.
And
Saw that.
two of the things he quoted was fat loss and mood enhancement.
Mm-hmm.
So when Huberman says something, Andrew Huberman, for people who are listening, and he's a neuroscience scientist
Yeah.
out of the States, he's pretty big.
Yeah.
It seems people come to my courses and they ask about Huberman's last post. So Wim Hof's been saying ice baths make you happy, healthy, and strong for at least the 10 years that, actually, how long have I been following Wim? Maybe 7 or 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but it's funny when some science validates it, all of a sudden people take more notice.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, but my take on the ice baths, and there is, you know, it's so many different things for so many people. Some of the latest science is saying it may reset insulin sensitivity, which is a major problem in society today. There's so many metabolic issues, so many struggles. The biggest killer worldwide is cardiovascular disease. So it's great training for the cardiovascular system. We're getting sort of compression and expansion of 100,000 kilometers of blood vessels, from what I understand. Now, the science on sauna is pretty awesome. There's 28-year studies. All-cause mortality is down 40% in some of these studies. I don't think the cold therapy science has this
Not yet.
longevity yet, but it will continue to grow and evolve. The ice baths are super anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
So I've read some stuff on mental health, and this is maybe more your area of expertise, where a high percentage of mental health could be down to inflammation of the brain. Now, do you have any stats there for me?
Well, I mean, I'm really similar to
you.
you, right, Dean? I think that there's such an anecdotal experience that I kind of have, and I've got with all my clients, that is there. And then there's also the evolving research around trauma and how the body kind of keeps the score with everything.
Yeah.
But it's going to catch up, and maybe that's going to be too late. You know, it's sort of, we're relying on the science before we start doing these things. But if we test this stuff out, it's great. I look at emotions as inflammation. When we have big emotions, it creates inflammation within the body. So that's kind of the way I look at it, is if we've got a lot of emotions, we've got a lot of stored stuff or energy within our body. This is where I'm seeing the benefit of like what putting that yourself into these exposures can kind of shift and create a different way that you show up.
Yeah, Charles Poliquin, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He said he was 20 to 40 years ahead of the science. And I just loved that.
Yeah.
Because the science, you know, would naturally follow. But yeah, so the anti-inflammatory effects, the mental health effects, the other mood boosting effects touched on earlier, potentially there's some benefits to people with addictive personalities, and by maybe trading alcohol for ice baths, you're getting that dopamine release. I think they touch on this in a book called Dope Nation or something. Again, I've sort of heard bits and pieces of it. Yeah, so there's so many things. Hormetic stress and getting people to understand stress is a real angle that I love. And teaching people functional breathing. I don't just chuck people in ice baths, and then putting them in a stressful situation, i.e. the ice bath, and then bringing them back to that functional breathing is a really beautiful way for me to connect the dots with what I do. So yeah, it's hitting it on multiple levels, but yeah, recovery from exercise is nothing that I ever talk to about in my sessions. So really surprised to hear Dr. Norman Swan talking about that recently. And, you know, none of the coaches that I know talk about ice baths for recovery. So
yeah, it's really big in the performance field, and I guess that's sort of, maybe that's where the crossover is. But then they start spitting out the facts and some of the stuff that you're talking about, and kind of the view that I have, which is like, it all comes back to stress. All of our autoimmune diseases, or all of our like daily sort of unmet needs, all come back to like, how are we managing stress within the body, and what are the consequences of that when it starts to not be dealt with, and how it sort of shows up. And there's these two beautiful things that are so accessible to so many of us, which is the breath and exposure to hot or cold therapy. So it's just such an incredible thing. And I think that, I'd love to hear a bit more around the functional breathing component of it, and like, I guess a bit of the process of what's kind of happening. Doesn't have to be a sciencey explanation. I think it's more the experience itself, which is really hard hitting for me, and what changed my view on a lot of things and helped me. Sure.
I tell this story a little bit on podcasts, so apologies to people that are following my podcasts around. I was an asthmatic and hospitalized as a 9-year-old. Struggled with asthma throughout my youth. And the one thing that really helped me was swimming training, the regulation of my breath through swimming training. And I seemed to get sick a lot, even, but particularly when I stopped swimming training, the asthma would come back and I would get sick. So I pretty much thought I had to swim for the rest of my life to be able to maintain sort of proper function. When I was swimming, I would do really well in sports and play footy and run around all day. When I wasn't swimming, I really struggled to do some of those things.
Okay.
It really was a real sort of big indicator, real sort of holding back. It's like, my belief was I needed to swim. And then I discovered yoga in my mid-20s. I could barely touch my knees at this stage, let alone my toes. And I started doing yoga to improve my flexibility. And as I mentioned, that regulated nasal breathing was just starting to give me what swimming was giving me without that intense exercise. I started doing Wim Hof. I was doing yoga. I was feeling a little bit sluggish at the time. Actually, I was feeling quite flat and lethargic. And so when I would do Wim Hof, have you practiced, right?
Big Wim Hof stuff.
Pump the body up, super ventilation, get high, and also I'd be relaxed. It's this, for me, it was this beautiful, energizing and calming meditation. And I'd practiced some meditation successfully, actually. Although I couldn't continue it. I seemed to not be able to keep it up. But I do a beautiful, energizing breath, relaxing, and jump in a cold shower, and that would just pump my body up.
Right.
As I started nerding out more and more into the breath, it brought me into Patrick McEwen's work of the Oxygen Advantage.
Oxygen Advantage, yeah.
And then I was just like, that is, Wim Hof's like a gateway drug to Oxygen Advantage. Like when you start, and now after James Nestor's book, Breath, the New Science of the Lost Art, have you read that? I'll assume
I haven't got that one yet. Oh, my list of breathwork books are
I'm
getting
disappointed in you.
I'll put it in the show notes for everyone, and I'll get
podcast guest. So that just brought so many people onto this bus, onto this functional breathing stuff that we're doing. And so I can't even remember what the question was. I think I was talking about myself, my journey. And so that's where I am. And my rescuing people as a lifeguard, they go into fight or flight in a rip. Brain stops working. Their decisions become counterintuitive, which is, I guess, what happens when your blood flow decreases to the brain. And this puts them in danger of dying. So, as you mentioned earlier, if I can teach people to understand stress, I believe I'll be able to save more lives.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly what I kind of think that if we all just have that view, it's like, well, how am I managing my stress? There's all these things that are going on in our world and in our lives that we can go, oh no, it's because this is going on. It's, well, how are you showing up? How are you coming back to you these days? And what's that self-care regime look like? And it seems like more and more people are kind of waking up to it. We're having
Yeah.
Wim Hof come and talk at Luna Park for some, wellness human experience. Like that wasn't happening before. And now everyone's getting around it. And I think there's a real importance of really singing the message that's coming through. And hence why I wanted you to be here, which is, it's not a fad. It's not this thing that's just like trending at the moment. We're all jumping in fucking ice baths. It's like, this is the way. Like you getting to be able to functionally breathe, nasally breathe, and then come in to be able to regulate your nervous system by putting yourself through something that's challenging. That sets you up. It sets you up for the day.
Yeah, I like to talk about a couple other analogies of hormesis, hormetic stress, where humans really seem to, whilst we're making their lives potentially a little bit harder, like intermittent fasting or taking off their fancy shoes and being barefoot, we're seeing these amazing results. So cold therapy is another one of those things where evolutionary humans have, they've mainly bathed in the cold, and then this is being lost. That we went through periods of, famine and feast, and again, this is being lost. And we spent a lot of time barefoot on the earth, and again, this is being lost. And we see massive, massive improvements in people's lives when they start to adopt these practices that initially they perceive as making their life harder. So yeah, the cold is one of them, and I quite often sort of share some of those analogies.
Yeah, I think you're so right. I was terrified of the cold. I talked to a lot of people, and people listening who be like, you're broken record, because I think repetition's key, right? But the non-negotiable self-care, I would say, like, make sure that you've got these things that you're doing every week that fills your cup back up, that are energizing you versus all the things that are depleting you. And one of those things for me was make it seasonal, make it editable, because when it's summer, I'll jump in the cold water, but when it's not, I won't. And I started preaching that, and I go, you know what? Why is that? And then I had that with my breath work. It shifted for me being like, it's because you're uncomfortable with it. And that's the exact reason I should start to do it. And that's what shifted my mindset is I do so much things in my life that are filled with effort. And then coming back to stillness is the hardest thing I do in my day. Then I can take on the world,
Yeah, put the comfort crisis on your book list. I listened to that recently. That was another good one. And again, sort of talked about a lot of things that you and I are probably sort of already doing and understanding. And really cool book.
Yeah, comfort crisis. Oh, I'll put a little list together at the end, so everyone can check some of that stuff out. So what the process kind of looks like is, I know that Huberman, again, he sort of talked about some of the research that's coming out around how we get into it, right? And then how do we slowly start exposing ourselves? And I think the study was having a cold shower regularly and then doing an ice bath once a week. What's your kind of take on it for like someone that's trying to do it, might not have access to it, and is terrified of the cold? Like, how do we start this movement?
Yeah, so the early days, for the advice I used to give people was one dose of cold therapy, boost the immune system for 6 days. So
Okay.
I was sort of saying, try and have an ice bath once a week, maybe embrace a couple of cold showers. Now, the latest research from Dr. Susanna Soberg, she's written a book, Winter Swimming, and Huberman and Joe Rogan have been sort of quoting her so-called Soberg principle. She's a lovely lady. I chat with her quite often on Instagram. She's also an Oxygen Advantage instructor.
Okay.
And she's blowing up at the moment, super popular. And she's done some research. She was a metabolic scientist, and she was interested in metabolism. And her research indicates 11 minutes of cold therapy a week for as an effective dose, minimum of 11 minutes. And I think
Right.
Was it 55, 57 minutes of sauna? They were her recommendations. Now,
So across the week, not all in one go.
Across the week, not in one go. Now, there's a significant amount of bio-individuality with the people that I work with. So it's what's right for someone is not right for other people. My regulars, I have to pull out of the ice bath now, Jackson. They want to just stay in and in. And at first, I strongly discourage this ego-based ice bathing. But in incremental overload, I am supportive of. And for people that want to have one decent ice bath a week and really want to start to sort of push to that shiver response, I can understand. And they're sort of paying me to facilitate them through an ice bath. So yeah, I am sort of letting them stretch it out, but it gets to a limit where I don't want to worry about them driving home and how long I have to keep them there afterwards. But yeah, I digress. Back to my recommendations. I want people to change their mindset about cold. So growing up, I was told that if you get cold, you'll get sick. I was scared of the cold. When now we know the cold is a hormetic stressor, as is the heat, as is breath holding, as is fasting. There's lots of types of hormetic stressors. And a little dose of the right dose of cold therapy, that's what the hormetic stress is, the body will respond positively to. So I ride a scooter. I live around Bondi, and in winter I used to have jumpers and jackets and gloves in there. Now, if I'm out in winter and I've just got a shirt on and I ride home and I get cold for 5 minutes, I am of the belief, and there's evidence behind this, that it will be good for me. It's changing people's mindset. Around cold exposure and getting them to become more body aware.
Yeah. It really takes away the can't, right? I was definitely a can't get in kind of person. I think one day I was up at Cremorne Point and my mate and I went fishing, and I'm not the best fisherman, and I dropped my whole rod into the water and I just wouldn't get in and get it. He could see it and he's like, just get in. And I was like, no, I won't do it. I won't do it. He's like, it's just a bit of cold. And this is a guy that's getting in the cold water all through winter. I was like, you do this all the time. Just do it. And this like can't mentality of being like, it's just not for me. And then I'm like, respect my boundaries and trying to push that kind of way about it. And I go, that's just such a block for me. And then challenging that, what's that about? Like, how do I shift through that? And you're right. It's just this attitudinal thing or how we've come about learning about it. And I think it's really powerful. It definitely resonates with me. It's like, if we get too cold, we'll get sick. And, if we expose ourselves, if we take that further, if we expose ourselves to too many things that are uncomfortable, we'll be put under threat and we might die.
Now, important note for people that aren't feeling well, there's a general recommendation. If you are like literally coming down with a cold, or you've got a cough, or you're in the middle of the flu, ice bathing is not recommended in that stage. Look after yourself in that state, because you're already stressed, and that's probably why you're sick. I'm going to put that out there. Now that is not the time to start pushing your body. Get better first, and then start to add those stresses on.
Okay, so this is a really good point. It kind of makes me think, and I'd be interested to hear your perspective on this. There's a lot of people running this stuff all up and down the beaches in Sydney. Ice bath, breath work. Some of them have waivers, some of them don't, and I guess each to their own. People are going to choose whether to go to which one and whatever, what's close, what's local. But what's some stuff that they can bring to their own table with their own kind of understanding around stuff like that. Like, if I'm sick, ice baths aren't great, but I guess one that comes up for me, it's like just the natural one. If you have like heart condition, obviously, then it's something you need to let know. But what are some of the other like important things that you kind of notice, or you're kind of
I don't know if you can see my shirt.
Ice bath coach. Yeah, I know.
I actually had to create a course. For people.
Yeah, which I love. I love that you've done that.
I'm so passionate about this modality, and I'm seeing these cowboys do shit, and they've got no idea. And someone's going to get hurt. And then the medical system, which frustrates me, is going to go, oh, ice baths are bad. So and so happened.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've put maybe 10,000 people through ice baths and had, you know, I've had a couple of incidents where people wanted to get checked up afterwards. There was two actually really nasty headaches. And again, I suspect something was underlying for those, and the ice bath actually brought it on. But yeah, it is so safe for so many people. But as you mentioned, there's certain populations that shouldn't be getting in an ice bath. Pregnant people, people with high blood pressure, um, the breath work for epileptics, not recommended. I'm trying to sort of delve into the research on epileptics, and I believe their cold water would be beneficial for them.
Hmm.
From what I can see in the medical system, and I'm not fully across this, they just give these blanket recommendations.
Yeah.
Because epileptics could have a fit, they're told not to go in the water. So, yeah, it
True.
needs a little bit more research.
Mm.
But yeah, potentially an epileptic could go in a supervised ice bath where they can't drown,
Hmm.
and benefit from that. But yeah, the research is constantly evolving, and yeah, I sort of need to delve a little bit further
Yeah.
into that. But there is some science on it that I've been looking at, and haven't found any reasons apart from them having a fit and potentially drowning. But you know, if they're supported in a one-on-one ice bath, I would see it as potentially safe. Now, I'd need their doctor to sign off before I would
Yeah.
take them through an ice bath. So yeah,
Mm.
waivers, disclaimers, and yeah, responsibility for their own health is all
Yeah.
encouraged to, you know, what I encourage my ice bath coaches to go through.
Yeah. And I think that's really important because I guess when you're adding a bit of breath work in and you're doing, and you might be doing a little bit of Wim Hof, like we're kind of talking about, there's a lot that's being stored there,
Mm,
right? So the body has this funny way of getting to these points where we're putting it under a little bit of pressure and we're releasing some stress. That there's shit that we've needed to release. And
mm,
the beautiful thing that starts to happen is there's some power in what that can kind of release. And I think that as a therapist and someone that's sort of trained in trauma is I'm really passionate about the safety around that. And, we are bringing people together a little bit more and it's creating
mm.
community, it's creating tribe, but that doesn't mean that that's every day and that they
Yeah.
don't then finish that breath work and ice bath and then go home to their disconnect or whatever, back to their
Mm,
life. So yeah, I'm because of the stuff that can come up. I really think that the safety around it's really important.
mm.
What are your thoughts around that, Dean?
Yeah, well, my partner's a yogi, right? And as am I, but she's more of a yogi than me. And in yoga circles, they quite often open a circle, right? They
Exactly.
open a group, there's
Yeah.
group connection, there's
Connection, yeah.
introduction, there's a safe space. And, um, you know, I believe if, are you familiar with the polyvagal theory, the
Yep.
social engagement, or the social, yeah, those social engagement nerves,
Yeah.
we want them, we want
Need
people
them.
feeling safe, and this happens in a safe container when we open a circle. Now,
Mm.
in a session, it's really important to try and close that circle off,
Mhm.
and you know, that's what we do, that's what we teach.
Mm.
And you know, there is also, we do need to offer people ongoing support if needs be, and
Yeah.
yeah, close that circle and just make sure everyone's okay and everyone's connected. And
Mm.
sometimes people feel embarrassed by what they're feeling, so maybe sort of some group sharing and a couple of things where people can connect and go, hang on, it just wasn't me.
Yeah.
That's quite normal.
Yeah, so sort of disarming some of that and really being able to bring it together so that there's a normality in the fact that what we've just been through might be a lot, and how do we hold the space for each other being really, really important. And then I think
Mm,
the key thing you said, which is definitely where I sit, is like it's the follow through and the aftercare when there is some of that big stuff that
yeah.
does, yeah, come up for people. Because yeah, I mean, as amazing as it feels post ice bath, yeah, you're putting your body under a stress response that they might not have been in since
Mm.
a particular thing that's occurring, or occurred, that's kind of creates quite a lot of overwhelm. Um,
Yeah, and you know, some people sort of talk like what you're saying, like leaving those containers unopened. And I'm not sure what other people are doing out there, but from us practicing what we've practiced with we've taught tens of thousands of people breath work. We've had such a brilliant run where
Mm,
we've just had success after success, and like I've lost count of feedback and testimonials that I should be keeping and sharing.
sure.
It's been really, really beautiful. Obviously, we've learned and modified it and improved along the way, but yeah, we haven't had those situations where people have been really struggling.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's interesting, but we're sort of feel like we're potentially doing the right things as
Yeah.
well.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, I mean, I think that's what it comes down to is, and you've got that nice yogic connected philosophy about you and within your circles. So there is that space, and again, it takes it away from like, we're just all at the gym and we're all going to this ice bath
yeah,
after and doing some of this hectic masculine breath work, and then not kind of realigning with the fact that like, hey, this is a really connected opportunity and a space, and I guess there's that respect there. I mean, every video that you post, I really hear the compassion that comes through on everything.
mm,
So that, I mean, that's probably the gold standard of what we want our breathwork and ice bath instructors to come with, is that ability to hold and the respect for what's there and
yeah.
human body itself.
Yeah, and we started off and really mainly running longer style workshops where we had 3 hours with people,
Mm,
and that's so beautiful to have that time to open and
yeah.
close.
Hmm.
And as I mentioned earlier, we're having my partner there some of the time when we could. Having that masculine and feminine energy was a beautiful balancing yin and yang. And
Yeah.
sometimes I love to touch people in my sessions, but yeah, not necessarily as comfortable touching women and men as she is. And
Mhm.
it's just so beautiful to have her in that sense of touch.
Mm, mm.
And some people probably are a little bit terrified before they walk in to think that someone's going to touch them. But once that safe space
Yeah.
is set up, and I know this sounds a little bit spiritual, and my younger self would be laughing or giggling at the stuff that I now say.
That's
Um,
what I love. That's go
yeah,
for
like
it.
a
Say it.
25-year-old to be you. Who the fuck do you think you are? And it's like you're full of shit. But once you experience it and once you see it and you see
Yes.
people change and you see
Yes.
people release, and I don't like to talk. I don't like to use the word trauma.
Sure.
I sort of go for tension.
Mm.
Um, I don't want to tell people they have trauma, but
Yeah.
yeah, sort of quite often allude to the fact that we're all carrying a little bit of tension, and you may release something
Mm.
during the session, and if you do, please don't hold back. Please sort of feel free to
Yeah.
release
Release.
that
Yeah.
sort of um, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear. Yeah. Well, I guess that's kind of what I'm picking up on, right? Is like, sure, your 25-year-old self might punch you in the shoulder and tell you to shut up, but like that's what the experiences have given, is that this is bigger than bigger than what it is because of what profoundness comes along with it.
Mm,
Testimonials aren't about, yeah, this was cool. I can swim in cold water now. Thank you so
mm.
much, Dean. Like,
Yeah, well, the Instagram does sort of sometimes drive it for people, and to all the cowboys out there as well, having more and more people doing ice baths, I love.
yeah, I mean, it's
We've just got to get a couple of little safety things in place,
true.
and make sure everyone's doing it safely. And when I first started doing this stuff 5 or 6 years ago, you couldn't have an ice bath anywhere else, and maybe football teams were ice bathing after games,
Yeah, exactly.
and potentially they maybe shouldn't have been. Some of the latest research indicates that maybe heat would be better for recovery
Mm,
and human growth hormone. Um, but yeah, like it now in Bondi, where I am, there's so many places that you can go and have an ice bath, like
mm.
gyms and facilities, and then there's all these people running them on the beaches. So it's exploding.
Yeah, it is. And I think, the beautiful part of it that I really love, and I think, it's, I guess pioneers like you that are kind of leading the way in that and allowing it for more of a space is it's bringing us back together. And it's creating community that's not about, the classic Aussie drinking culture or anything. Like a lot of this stuff's happening Sunday morning, right? Like we're really waking up Sunday morning wanting to go and connect in this way. That's very different for a lot of people. And I think that, yeah, it's a movement. And I mean, it's proving to be such a movement that we've got the OG Wim Hof coming through, right? So I think it's such a powerful thing that I'm so passionate about in the bigger picture. It's just like, I think you said it before, it's this like path into connection, more connection to ourselves, more understanding, more awareness of ourselves, and then how then we can then show up in the rest of our tribe or relationship with others.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is really cool. And that, I guess that part, what would like a big workshop kind of include? Like you said, these 3-hour workshops, like if someone was to kind of thinking about it, someone's on the fence about it, like what do they get? I mean, without giving away all your tips and secrets of the bliss that comes with it, but what's someone expecting to come to do or get?
Yeah, so I like to assess the way people breathe, and to teach them about stress and the breath. Really offering multiple tools. For me, mouth taping has been, a game changer in my life. And there's a lot of dysfunctional breathers out there. So we go through mouth taping, we assess people. We sort of get people to sort of understand sort of CO2, respiratory physiology, do some assessments, talk about sort of slow breathing, sort of a couple of pillars of functional breathing, diaphragmatic breathing. Breathing for sports, snoring, sleep apnea, asthma. A lot of these things generally come up, and for me, this is how we breathe 24/7, and this is really relevant to the way people feel and understand stress. Dysfunctional breathers are significantly higher on the stress and anxiety disorder scale. It's like 70-80% of people with stress and anxiety in that disorder are dysfunctional breathers, whereas it's maybe 20-30% of the rest of the population. So I want to assess them, I want to pick them up, I want to offer them tips and tricks. Simple stuff like, as a yogi, for me, like breathing nasally is literally a game changer, and the mouth taping at night is just mind blowing. I literally feel smarter, and people sort of laugh. But for a kid that didn't know the alphabet when he left school and couldn't spell, to be doing some of the stuff that I do now and achieving what I achieve in a week is I'm proud of myself.
Yeah. And that's so cool. And that's the part that I guess we tie it all back into, is this podcast all about like how we feel about ourselves and how we show up in relationships. And I think the underlying stuff that hopefully people are picking up on is we feel better about ourselves and how we think and communicate with ourselves because of how much more insight and awareness and, like you said, sort of confidence. It's creating this proudness from within and a lot of stuff from within. So how would you say, like, can you speak a little bit more, like, how has it impacted your self-worth, like overall, all the holistic things you're doing, but I guess mostly that functional breathing and that ability to kind of allow yourself to be in uncomfortable and connect and shift into that, more holistic way of being.
They're all so connected. Like everything in my life, I feel, from the lifeguarding, is very connected to the work I'm doing with stress and the understanding of it. And then, the Wim Hof is even though that's a dysfunctional breathing technique, it makes people more breath aware. And if people are more breath aware, their functional breathing improves. And I guess for me now, I'm starting to try and get more data and starting to try and share some of this. I've had a couple of mums in the last couple of weeks that they both got 7-year-olds actually. One was wetting the bed and one was having sort of nightmares at night. And, we got the mouth taping and both saw an improvement. And it's before that, it's like, can you sort of get some data for me? How many nights a week are they ending up in your bed? How many nights a week are there accidents? Let's implement the mouth tape. And, even though it's sort of n equals 1, I'm
Yeah.
getting this data. So,
Mm.
yeah, we
Which
were
is
sort
great.
of going from 3 or 4 accidents a week to 1 in a fortnight, which
How
is
good.
phenomenal.
Yeah. All through the mouth taping and the
Awesome.
focus of functional breathing.
Well, these kids were just that was just mouth taping, so that wasn't even with any,
Mouth taping, yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
But I guess, their mums have done sort of some functional breathing training with,
Yeah, sure.
but, at that age, you would potentially hope that it should be fairly intuitive if we can just correct a couple of things.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
Exactly right.
and at the younger age, I would hope the body goes back to normality with that little help of
Yeah.
the tape on the mouth.
Well, they're still little sponges, right? We
Yeah.
can reverse a lot of stuff at that younger age. Takes a little bit longer when we're a bit older. We're a bit more
Both
stuck.
these young kids are really embracing it. They really enjoy it. They ask for it to be put on at night. Whereas, my 5 or 6-year-old at the time when I started, when I put the tape on him, he didn't like it at all. So,
Mm.
yeah.
So I've just started doing it, and it's definitely I'm way more aware around my breath, but I was going to buy the ones you're linking, and ended up going with a different one. I don't know if it's very good, but I'm blowing it off. I'm a big old mouth breather at night, and I know that it's impacting my sleep, and I know that it's having a big impact. I'm really focusing on optimizing lots of different areas, hence why you're here. But sleep being a really big important one, and also helping me with my meditation, my breath work, and my ice bath. So
Yeah.
that, yeah, I'm a bit stumped around that one. Why it's not as effective? I don't know if my nose is blocked, and maybe I need to assess something else first. But yeah, it's not. I'm not loving that I can't get some of that data to share with you. But at the moment, my results aren't great.
Yeah, it does take a while for some people to adapt to it. So I used to use a 3M micropore tape that you get from the chemist, costs $3 or $4. Put a little bit across my lips from there to there, and I only started using this Myotape product, which I now sell. So
Yeah,
disclaimer: whilst I am plugging it, let's acknowledge that I also sell the product.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I do sell it because I believe in it. So I started wearing that before I put it on my son. I felt that that was the thing to do. And you don't tape your kid's mouth shut, even though it probably would be safe. It's just nothing that we'd
Precautionary.
recommend.
Yeah.
But putting pregnant people or people with heart issues in an ice bath could actually be good for them, but it's
Just a
sort of on the side of
precaution, right?
caution.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I started wearing that and just absolutely loved it. I found it sort of less intense, less abrasive. I found it stayed on all night.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it doesn't actually cover the lips, I found it really effective.
Okay. Well, yeah. I feel like I'm just pushing through it. So I feel like I need to
Mm.
literally mask,
Yeah.
like
Well,
medical
have you
tape on that.
tried the piece of medical tape?
I mean, not across here. I've got one
Mm.
at the moment. It's across, and that's
Cross.
just losing
Yeah.
its stick.
And
And
is there a little gap in the middle of that one? What's that
no,
one? I
it's
had
just
tried.
just across the
Yeah.
mouth. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll try that little thing. But yeah, I guess the rather than going too far into me, I think that's just sort of the optimizing of my breath and coming back to that functional breathing. Because
Mm.
yeah, sleep and breathing, and then how I'm kind of operating overall and what my brain health is yeah, that's where all my thinking's at the moment. And I think
Mm.
it's because of the space and the capacity and what we're getting shown these days is there's a choice. There's a choice to step into this stuff.
Yeah.
I love, which I really love.
Yeah. Well, it's, I like people to pick up the low hanging fruit. And if you're
Yeah.
not breathing optimally for 8 hours at night when you're asleep, there's a fair bit of low hanging fruit there that we can
Mm,
maybe jump on and get people feeling much better with sort of doing the work while they're sleeping.
100%. Get your sleep right. I feel like everything falls into place because
Mm.
yeah, it just creates that
Well,
start.
you know, if you wake up refreshed, you're more likely to exercise. You're more likely to
Yeah.
eat better after you exercise. The day just flows from there.
Mm.
If you wake up feeling like shit, you're going for caffeine or sugar, and you're sluggish.
Mm.
Your relationships are gonna suffer. Like everything in your life's gonna just well, suffer's maybe the wrong word, but yeah, it's not gonna be optimal, is it?
Well, it's just that. It just, I mean, I've got
You're not
ADHD.
thriving.
Yeah, that's it. You're not thriving. And my psychiatrist, I got ADHD, is the way he describes it, I think it's actually correlates well with this, is you're just driving with the handbrake on,
Mm.
and you can do it, but it's not great. Like, you don't want
I
it.
like that. I'm gonna use that.
Yeah. Because if you can fucking figure out how to let it down,
Mm.
you cruising, right? Like, and I think that's what it's all about for me, is just taking little bits and pieces that, yeah, low hanging fruit that I can kind of slowly take that handbrake off and get more optimized in my health. Um, yeah, I love it. And it's cool. Like, um, at the end of the day, I think we're both like still human, we're not gonna get, the breathing's not always going to be perfect every day. Like, we're still going to have moods and have emotions that come up. And I think it's just keep showing up for yourself. And yeah, I mean, it just like sort of normalizes and humanizes the process too.
Yeah, well, for me, I really like everything as natural as possible, right?
Mm.
So like my ideal world, you know, trying to eat a natural diet, trying to get out in the sun, trying to sort of move, and the
Mm.
thought of putting plastic with adhesive on my face most nights of the week is unnatural.
Yeah.
So even there's a little bit of there used to be a little bit of conflict there in myself, and yeah, you know, sort of avoiding plastics and avoiding waste, and
Yeah. I feel the same way about a little robot on my arm or on my ring telling me how I feel, and when to move. But I'm slowly shifting away from that, because there's a lot of unconscious stuff that I don't know, that potentially can record some of these things, that I'm
mm,
slowly moving into a little bit of that.
yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't worn my Aura ring for a couple of weeks actually.
Yeah. I got
I
one
was
coming.
working really hard.
Yeah.
I've been flat out, and I didn't want to wear it because I didn't want to get in trouble with it.
Yeah, it keeps you accountable. I got mine coming, and I feel like it's going to start to set me up. But,
Mm,
optimize, that's the choice I make, which is
mm.
really cool. So, look, man, I could talk to you all day. I'm sure we could either bore everybody or really wow them with all the crazy stories we could tell, and insights we could have. But what's kind of what's on offer? I know you're doing a lot of things at the moment, and I love so much of it. But I guess this podcast has a whole bunch of different
Mm.
walks of life, from therapists to just other self-worth thrivers, and people that are meditating, people that are breathing, and people that are curious. So what's going on for you
We
at the
love
moment?
curious people.
Love it.
What's going on for me? Yeah, I've been working every day at the moment. We're off to Vietnam for my partner's 50th soon, so
Cool.
I've
Beautiful.
literally had my ass hanging out. Like ice baths been mental over this summer period, and you know, during COVID, it was a bit of a struggle for me personally. There wasn't much work. There
Yeah.
was, you know, I couldn't pay my mortgage. Yeah, there was. So yeah, sort of, you know, been working. Haven't been saying no to work, and yeah, sort of been working 7 days a week. So just trying to get my head down
Yeah.
to that, and literally ice bathing people 5 6 days a week at the
I've
moment,
been seeing.
and then training other people to ice bath people. So I'm getting work come through now, and I'm offloading that to people that I train. So this is
Cool.
beautiful, because I can't
That's
do.
the way.
This is sort of how it evolved. I couldn't
Mm.
keep up with the demand.
Yeah.
Um,
Fair.
yeah, I'm
Which is
teaching
cool.
Oxygen Advantage in Melbourne on the weekend. I love Oxygen Advantage. It's for everyone who breathes, really.
Yeah, I'm thinking about doing it. The oxygen advantage.
And yeah, you know, there's a couple of weekly sessions. I've got a couple
In
of PT.
Bondi,
Yeah, one in
mostly.
Bronte, one in Bondi.
Yep.
I've got a couple of PT clients that I still train. I don't take new clients anymore. Yeah, Wim's in town next week. That's going to be huge.
That's gonna be cool.
Yeah, so I've set up an event before the day before Wim's at Luna Park. There's
Okay.
some VIPs doing a private event in the city, so that'll be cool to catch up with Wim. I haven't seen him for years.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Like, he's sort of blown up since I've seen him. I
Yeah,
used to sort of see him
so,
quite regularly and sort of,
oh, how good.
chat with him, and now so I wonder if he'll even remember me. Like,
Yeah, he's so popular. That's so crazy.
but
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, and then I quite often end up creating, depending on what people want, I create courses and stuff for them.
Yeah.
It could be an online, face-to-face combination. I've got an app which I don't put much time and effort into, and a new course that I released last year, which I'd love to sort of pimp out, but I just don't have the time to sort of play with.
Yeah. So look, there's a way in, there's a way to find you. Where's the best way to kind of?
Yeah, I spend heaps of time on Instagram. If you Google Dino Gladstone, I've got websites, I've got Facebook pages, you can email me. But yeah, Instagram or my website, which you can email me through there, are probably good. I've got a Power of the Breath, which is a more specific breath work and cold therapy page, and then sort of my general page with Dino Gladstone, which is
Yeah, cool. I don't know if I have you actually, the Dino Gladstone, but I got Power of the Breath. But yeah, I'll put all that up in the show notes and get some people, coming and finding you if that
there's
are
some
in the
bits and
area.
pieces on YouTube as well that I've sort of put together over the years.
Yeah,
there's sort of free content. There's nose unblocking exercises, which might be good for you at night before you go to bed.
that's right.
That's
right.
some nose unblocking and some slow breathing. Really
wow.
open those airways before you tape your mouth shut at night. That's going
True.
to
I think that's where
that
that's the
ability
next
to breathe
step.
nasally at night. And it's a bit of a mess, my life, but I love it, and I sort of designed it that way. So
Yeah, well, I mean, you everybody else is taken, right? You're all you got.
and I learned that early on, Jackson. The first year they filmed Bondi Rescue, we were being filmed and we thought it was special. We're on TV, and potentially I was trying to be someone better than who I was, and I was really lucky when I worked out people liked me for me.
Yeah.
And that was cool. So yeah, the more that I learned that early, and then just started to be myself.
I love how authentic you are. Honestly, it's so good to get more of that into my life and just to be around someone like yourself that kind of just says how it is and where's whatever it is right out there for everyone seeing here. And I think we need more of that. And yeah, I mean, that's respect to the work that you're kind of doing and the commitment to the wellness and looking after you. So big respect for that, Dino. It's been awesome chatting.
Jackson, pleasure.
Cool, man. Thanks so much. We got there in the end, and it's been awesome connecting. I'm really honored to kind of finally do this in a way.
Thanks, man. I did enjoy the chat. It's always sort of, I love connecting. Like, it's beautiful, this work, right?
It's beautiful. It's so good. It's so good.
They're really lucky, and you see sort of us lighting up talking about this stuff. So
yeah, that's the best part.
Yeah.
Even if no one listens, I have a good time.
It's good.
Do you want to find out more about how therapy can help you kick some goals? Go check out findreasontherapy.com.au or the Find Reason Therapy Instagram page.